Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'm gonna Open this planning board meeting. I'm going to start with old business. With the site plan application of 559 Main Street, Great Salt Bay School. We'll start with a public hearing on that. Vote, to open it.
I think you can do it by unanimous consent unless,
You need to vote me in to start with, even though we're
Yes.
not voting on anything.
We've always done that, so I will make a motion that we accept Dan Day
Yeah,
as
we do have to do that.
alternate for Jenny Pickett for tonight's meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
So I forget we have to do that.
Yeah. And right, the two old business items, I don't think you'll be able to. But the new business, perhaps if you're here next month as well, then.
Yeah.
Keep being on that.
So, and we're gonna start a public hearing for the alteration of the school parking lot, Great Salt Bag.
I have some updates for the board on this. Because I've had some correspondence with Mark, I think since I sent out this draft findings of fact. The thing that I had highlighted was I needed some information on the existing or proposed stormwater management, which Mark provided me with this site plan of the original. I guess when there was. When was this from exactly?
This is when we're building the additions in 1998.
Okay,
And we put all the drainage together. And that won't change at all in this new plan. We're still planning on using the existing.
okay. So I think that answers the question about the stormwater management. And then as far as erosion and sediment control, the ordinance requires a name and number for contact for the erosion control plan, which Mark said that would be him, and I have his phone number, so I'll include that in here. And then he provided these details for this temporary erosion control measures, silt sock that's going to be nailed in, and just, I guess a lot of this is pretty standard, you can imagine, but so we do have this now. So I think that satisfies any questions about the erosion control during construction.
You're gonna take up most of the tar there and all that, right? You're gonna take up most of the tar and all
We'll
that.
be taking off the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And maybe some reclaiming of it.
Uh,
Because that center island that comes down where it's being divided from the circle that's there now,
mhm.
that will be removed. The granite will be replaced into a different angle, we'll say, so that we can make that loop that comes in longer.
Mhm.
So in that area, either we're gonna reclaim it. So we'll either reclaim that area or just recycle the walkways that we have here now.
Yeah.
A lot of it's staying right in place.
Yep, all right. Pretty minimum
Yes.
anyway, and it's a big advantage to get those cars out of the road as much as possible.
Yeah.
It'll be a big plus.
Yeah.
Between the picking up 14 or 15 extra spots in there. And then having, pulling those cars at any given time off the road. And then we're gonna have personnel up there moving cars forward so that we can keep the traffic flow going.
Yeah,
Because as we know, it's just the times that drop offs and pickups in the afternoon.
yep.
Yeah, when I was going through the parking and circulation section of the site plan review, it seems like, I mean, the whole point of this project, I think, is to improve that. So that was noticeable improvement.
But like I said, this actually is a public hearing. I mean, does have anybody have any feedback or any interest in this particular project?
I live right across from the school, so daily I see the story of cars and, I've been wondering who to contact because the edge from the gravel part from the roadway is been degraded quite a bit. And a few years ago, we spent a couple $100 putting gravel in and then it's all gone and it's starting to deteriorate at the bank. And I thought, who do I contact? The school, state of Maine, town of Damariscotta? Who is responsible for that?
State aid road, I believe. You'd have to contact the state.
Well, I'm hoping I spoke earlier today with Mark, so I'm hoping that this design will improve that because there's a lot of cars. There are times when I can't get to my mailbox. There are times if there's a school event, we can't get out of our driveway. People park halfway across our driveway. So if this can improve that, we're only one family, but if that can improve that, I would appreciate it.
Did you see this?
I did, and but I just wanted to hear that we think that it probably won't prevent all of the cars from lining up there.
No, it won't.
And I mentioned to Mark today, I just read an article in the Washington Post saying across the country, more families are driving their kids to school and abandoning school buses. So I think it's good timing and appropriate.
Yeah.
Great, yeah. But I think like Chair Jonathan said, it's a state road, so the town has limited ability to do anything, but Andy Dorr, the town manager, is also the road commissioner for the town. So, he's the kind of local contact for all things roads.
I don't
But-
mind periodically putting some gravel down because before there was such a big gully and it would ice over and, I just didn't want to take the chance. So, but I don't want to do that if it's gonna get washed out by people just the traffic.
Well, in that plan too, is the state has got a program that's coming up through there. That's gonna widen that all out to add a sidewalk. There will be a bike lane, so. A lot of that will be taken care of, maybe not immediately, but in the future, that is planned out to take care of that. But I do understand what she's saying about right in front of the mailbox. It does have a bit, but I would start with Andy, the town manager first to see what can be
I
done.
wasn't sure if it was legal for me to dump the gravel there, but
I don't think anybody's gonna bother you.
nobody's come after me. So.
Who didn't know? All right.
Thank you.
Nobody else has got anything else to say about the school project? Okay, I guess we'll close this public hearing, go back to work on that to a certain degree.
So I think the only assuming what I provided with you is, like I said, the draft findings of fact. There's some updates that I mentioned. And so I think if the board is satisfied that all of the questions have been answered and all the standards were met and you don't have any other changes to this, I think that the board could adopt this and easily vote to approve with conditions or deny the application.
I agree with you. It seems, well, number one, the project is a positive project, just the parking and the circulation, so I certainly am satisfied with what we have at this point.
Okay.
Even handling the buses is better, honestly.
Yep.
Anything's an improvement.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion?
Given that my compadres haven't said anything, I will make a motion that we accept this parking lot renovation as presented.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? There you go, Mark.
All right.
Thank you.
I think you should abstain because you weren't here before for
No,
the
I wasn't.
original.
No, I read all afternoon on the computer.
You
about
did?
it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Then.
So I'm
you're good and feel comfortable about it, and then I retract my
That's fine.
statement.
Okay,
Right. Sure, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because I want to get a picture of it and get it in the file.
Thank you.
Um,
okay, next on the old business, site plan application 100 Main Street, Bangor Savings. We'll start that one off with a we'll start that off with, well, actually, no, but you bring your stuff up.
Okay, good.
So people can see this, if you have stuff. We're gonna start this off with a public hearing again, also.
I do want to just say, well, when you guys get set up and then I'll.
Yep.
update everything.
Also too, we brought the
Oh, perfect.
copies of the letter and the other stuff.
Which letter is that?
The response to your comments.
Okay,
We've
all
got
right,
copies
great.
of those
Yeah,
items.
yeah, I think we can.
Read both sides, the apples as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
This one's
This is the same as that?
the address, I'll give it to you after the presentation.
All right. To get settled in, we're gonna get started here.
And I just want to say,
Just slightly so the audience can see that. You all can see that? Okay.
I just wanted to say, just for the board and for the record, I got an email from Judy Metcalf Law addressing the Griffin Lane. And then I also, which I just mentioning, I provided the copy of that to the board and also a copy of a follow-up email from Nicholas Morrill from on behalf of Bangor Savings. So I printed those out. Those you have. We can discuss those, but that's.
I read both of those. You guys are familiar with it too. Okay. Well, let's start this public hearing. Does anybody want to speak on this? We're gonna go one at a time. And you're gonna have to state your name, and I prefer that you actually came up here. Sat down, state your name. And make your statement.
Mr. Chair, would it help if we explain the project to the public, because they may not have seen it?
Actually, why don't you? That's actually a very good
so
idea.
that
A lot
way,
of these people are probably familiar with this to a
Yep.
certain degree, but yes, I think
Okay.
it's probably a very good idea.
We'll go with that, and yeah, then we can address Griffin
Yeah.
Lane, because I think there's a pretty simple answer there.
Yep.
So what we're looking to do, this is like about half of what the existing parking lot is now. It goes directly behind the bank. So to meet all the standards of the shoreland zoning and planning board, we designed it so you had a buffer line around the building and circulation of parking. Currently, there's 25 spaces along this property line, and we're proposing 25. And then there'll be residual land here, and like we told the board in the past, that's residual land. They've tried to section it off so that it stayed in good shape. And we've been talking to the town manager about donating that to the town, but that would be a subsequent to this activity, because everyone knows you need downtown parking and that sort of thing. So what they did is they worked within their existing boundaries. And at the last meeting at the planning board, you had asked us about flood storage, because that's a big area in that area. So this is the current flood line, which is the old Damariscotta building, and it comes across in this way. So when we're able to improve the site and add the drainage and with the erosion control and everything else, and reduce the impervious area pretty dramatically, we're able to keep the flood storage just along the perimeter and along the shoreline. So it's a pretty dramatic improvement, and it protects that whole area for flood storage. The other question that was asked, well, we're going to do a site walk, but we've got snowed out, is how the site would work cross-section wise. So there's a little bit of fill involved, but basically it just goes from one edge of the site to the other. And that's the little bit of fill line, and those are the two gutter lines. So that it's a nice 3% cross slope and then plenty of room for flood slope. So I'll pass it over to Jeff Reed from CV Mahara, who will give you some of the statistics on the amount of impervious that we're removing and that sort of stuff.
Right, so again, Jeff Reed, CV Mahar Engineers, and we did the site design for this project here. You know, as David has outlined before, you know, the existing conditions there. You know, we had an existing operations center and building that were removed. And what we're looking to do is just create a nice parking area for Bangor Savings Bank patrons and staff. And just some of the nuts and bolts on this here. The overall site area is just under an acre, you know, 35,000 square feet. You know, the 44,000 square foot bank building was removed. The 25 parking space parking lot is going to include 2 ADA spaces. It's going to include 24-foot drive aisles, so that emergency vehicles will be able to drive through there. As David mentioned, in part from one of Michael's comments and another comment before, we kind of raised that northeast corner of that parking area slightly to make sure that we were above the FEMA flood elevation. And what that does do is it allows us to kind of even out that slope, match into existing grades on both ends, and then provide some shallow drainage swales, which the site does not have right now, that will accommodate stormwater runoff from that parking lot. So as you're looking, the site kind of slopes from left to right. Easier for me to point, I suppose. Pardon my back, so I can.
That's good.
show the photo.
Please do.
So stormwater now kind of comes across this way. We're going to have a shallow swale here, which is going to capture any water coming off of this paved area here. It's going to direct it down into the river. And then from over here, we're going to be doing the same thing, where we're going to have a shallow swale down this way so that we can protect our neighbor to the east and not shed water off onto his property. We're going to add some landscaping to these 2 vegetated islands to improve the appearance here, as well as a couple of trees and some other landscaping around this edge over here. This is going to be an elevated section here that will have a picnic table, possibly a bench, be available for public use and sitting down by the river. There will be a dumpster pad with an enclosure and landscaping around that as well to handle trash from the building.
And we're gonna be removing they get a small utility shed that's gonna go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
There's just gonna be one dumpster back in this corner.
The dumpsters that are next to the shed are gonna be.
Yeah, all that's gonna be
Gone away.
Yep.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna replace that. We're gonna put it on a nice concrete pad. It's gonna have a fence around it so that it'll provide some visual screening. And then there's gonna be some additional landscaping around that to kind of soften that. So you're not just looking at the fence. There'll be some nice plantings around there too.
So in the back, there's gonna be like a sidewalk or something for people to go from.
This will all be nice even grass there. Yeah, so just, yeah,
That's what
yep.
it's open.
No, it's open to the public.
No,
So
we're gonna have a little bit of timber guardrail on either side of the grass here.
but that's
And what, yeah, that's gonna stop right around here, so there'll be access around the end. And basically what we wanna do is we wanna protect, you know, there is gonna be a little swale there. So we just wanna make sure there's a visual cue so that anybody driving here doesn't end up in that little swale.
How people gonna go from Main Street to the back area? I don't see any sidewalk in your parking.
no,
Inside.
No, and there's not, because the sidewalk would have been an additional width, it would have been additional impervious. We thought this was a short enough and small enough area that there'd be adequate protection for foot traffic
So there
there.
won't be any walking areas on either side of your parking.
No,
No.
so there's just a one lane.
No, we were looking to condense this as much as we could.
Maybe show, with your finger, show the width of the aisle, the driving aisle.
So,
You said 24 feet.
yeah, so from the end of the parking spaces here to the edge of the green, and from the edge of the parking to the edge of the green, and that wraps all the way around
24 feet.
24 feet wide, which would allow for two-way traffic. Those are kind of standard widths that we use for road design and others. And we've got the arrows here just to indicate both ways. There will be some some signage as well, minimal, not, Bangor Savings Bank signage or anything like that, but there'll be a stop sign and stop bars and that sort of thing to provide, again, visual cues for drivers so that they know that they've got to stop before they leave the parking lot.
I'm happy not seeing any lighting unless we're going to run that.
Well, no, we do have some lighting. Okay, so we're gonna have a light in the island here. We're gonna have a light in the island here, and we're gonna have a light here. Those have been designed to meet town standard. Okay, we had, again, one of Michael's comments on our initial review. Initially, we had two lights. We had one here and one here because we just wanted to kind of keep it, low key, toned down.
We like that too.
Yeah, but they were too high with only two, so
Well-
we brought them lower with three, so.
And what happened was, unfortunately, when we had just two, in order to get the adequate lighting in the middle, these had to be higher power. And Michael noticed that and said, we should try to tone those down. So what we did is we went back to our lighting consultant. We added a third. And by evening that out, we were able to provide more uniform coverage for the parking area, but at lower intensities at each of the poles.
What do you, 1 foot candle?
So the ordinance is 1 foot candle kind of overall with a maximum of 2 foot candles it's actually rated at an intersection. Which I took to mean at the pole.
Any kind of a cap or covering?
Oh, yeah, they're
All dark
full
sky.
cut off, fully shielded. So no light pollution into the night sky.
And I'll answer for Bangor Saving. This is mostly just employees in the evening. It's just to light the way and make it safe. That's it.
Will
So
it
it's
have
no-
hours?
Yes.
yeah.
Well, for the lighting, well,
Yes, I mean.
yeah, so the lights are gonna get shut off at what, an hour or so after close of business or
That's
something.
important, yeah.
Yeah.
And they might put them on,
Probably on a timer.
a timer, but a motion sensor, because their concern is, this is a nice place to go hide.
Yeah.
So- Yeah, so they just wanna, it's more for the neighborhood, so.
I have a question. In the past, there's been some drug usage over there in that area. Are you, how you gonna maintain that area kind of safe? Because now you're gonna have a park, you're gonna have benches, you're gonna have this. How we're gonna keep that part of our town safe?
So, I'm not sure that we're gonna be doing a whole lot different than what's there right now at first. Like I said, our main concern was being able to blend into the neighborhood and impact the neighbors as little as we can, right? We want to be good neighbors. We don't want bright lights shining in people's windows and that sort of thing. If it does become a problem, the lights are there, and lighting is typically a big deterrent for, nighttime usage or illicit usage. We can adjust the timers to provide longer hours. We can, that sort of thing. We can also adjust the intensity of the lighting, probably with a thermostat. There are options moving forward that we could do, but right now we really haven't planned that. I suppose if it becomes an issue, I can tell you that the bank is not going to want that either.
So reach out to if it becomes an issue, reach out to the bank. They've got great security. And if that means that if this becomes a pocket park that creates the wrong element, then they'll either put a camera or they'll do something to support it, because
Right.
that's,
On the age drinking, Venezuela.
that's too
Yeah,
bad.
we find a lot of nits down there.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah, and there's definitely some kids who could like blue raspberry and
I hear you. I think you had a question, sir.
So the public can use the area with the picnic table.
Yep.
possibly the
Yep.
bank.
Yep.
Will they have access to the water from that area?
Yeah, so one of the things that we had done, and David had mentioned before, this is not, finalized by any means, but the entire property kind of comes over to this line over here. Okay, and this is sections that, potentially is gonna be.
So
Sure,
one of the
with the town.
towns that a group has asked the town about people with mobility and having access to the bay. And so we've designed it in such a way, if that program ever comes to fruition and the town needs it, there's 2 spots would be right here where that's land that we're looking to donate to the town that they could do. If not, we could create another small area here.
There's no provision at this time.
There's no provision, but there's no restriction because they'll be, you'll build.
They haven't finalized that idea, but I have gone and personally looked at the grades and seen to make sure that they could do like an ADA hand carry access to the river through this section here.
In reality, that's one of the only places that you can access water in town, except for the landing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, and honestly, there were some concerns that came up with that from one of the board members at the last.
I think what he's talking about, to walk down or to paddle?
People do
Yeah.
clamps there.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
Children swim there.
yeah,
There are a lot of people fish there.
yeah.
so.
Cool.
So one thing that I'll add as well, because this is another thing that came up when we were here last month as part of the shoreline zone application. All the work is going to be above the high tide line. We're not going down into the flats. We're not going down in.
So you'll still
Below
be
the
able
tide.
to get down.
What we're doing, in fact, this line here on the green kind of shows the old pavement line where the pavement is right now. And it shows, so anything along this edge here and that's why these lines are kind of like that, are going to be pulled back and vegetated and grass. So we're pulling the pavement out and we're going to be adding loam seed mulch.
Yeah, and then what,
What's the elevation above the high water mark of that line?
So this line here,
And what high water mark?
I beg your pardon?
What high water mark?
Yeah, so the high annual tide shows, and from the surveyor is kind of along, this is not the high tide, but it comes just inside, this line here. All this riprap is above the high annual tide. We understand there's storm surge, there's other things that can happen that come up. We've got photos from December that show, this whole area
yeah,
flooded.
the other property. So
Yeah.
we kind of picked up that corner to help. And that was one of the questions from the town manager, help us, because it's areas that has been identified by FEMA, but the town didn't have access to. So he says, if you're able to do that, that helps the town with its compliance. So we've been.
How far, what was the intrusion of those 2 high tides?
So this was the old, your old high water mark. And when we're done our construction, it's gonna come right along the shoreline and just go up that swell.
What was that high water?
I think it was
Elevation 10.
Elevation 10
Elevation 10.
on the
Yeah.
current FEMA map.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know how many truckloads of matrix you have to bring in to bring it up to that grade?
It's actually not that much. Yeah, because when you go up there, it slopes down and then it picks back up. So this is, we had the same question last meeting. And you could see, it's not all that much. It's really deceiving until you drive it. Cause it goes down, but then comes back up.
Yeah.
Small things.
Yeah, so we're kind of evening out that grade a little bit, just providing a uniform slope coming across instead of a little steeper, a little flatter.
If you could flip that around, I had 2 vegetative concerns.
Okay.
Which, this one here?
Yeah, maybe already dictated by the state, but if those could be native species
Yeah.
of trees,
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one is, I've seen like 100% of the swales I've ever seen made become Phragmites infested in no time. So that's concerned. Once the Phragmites are in there, Phragmites australis, there's no way to get rid of it.
Okay. Well,
So
it's mowable.
Big cattails and that's.
Yeah, but this is mowable, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be more than maintained.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a grass swell
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you can't get rid of cattails.
I don't want to say that.
No, no. So, yeah, we try to do a lot that taking a lot of the impervious out allowed us to do a lot of the improvements, so we have.
Are you gonna take the entire parking lot out and
No.
regrade it and then pave it?
No, just what's shown here, the other parking lot's flat and in decent shape, that's gonna stay right there.
Yeah, so that's gonna stay. What we're gonna do is along this edge here, we're just gonna saw cut that. And only the area we're working in is gonna be removed and replaced. Everything else is gonna stay the way it is now.
I had one for.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a car accident at the entrance to, the courtyard street, courtyard main.
Oh, down here,
You've got a car stalled blocking that.
Yeah.
And you've got an ambulance inside the parking area
Mhm.
with the patient, how are they gonna get out?
Well, they can get out through the existing drive-through. If
Yeah.
there is also an existing drive that comes through on the east side of the bank. That in an emergency, they could use to access Main Street. There's another way, I mean,
No, that's
and
been
again,
blocked
out
off.
this way here, or is this blocked
That's
off?
been blocked off by the neighbor.
Oh, okay.
But Bangor Savings plans on using predominantly, like all the time, is their entrance in off of Main and their exit out through the drive-through. That's what,
All vehicles can't get through there,
no.
the garbage truck, the fire truck.
Can,
How, you know,
Then
Then they can go out Courtyard Street.
go up court.
is that a two-way street or one way?
It is, I'm not sure, but they own 7 or 10 feet or have an easement on
Not
town.
pretty large vehicle.
I think it's shared with the
It's-
neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, it's in an emergency, it's two-way. You know, they do what they gotta do to get through, but yeah, but there's a bit, but this is probably 14, 15 feet wide. Which is on par with travel lane that you would, well, 24 is two-way traffic.
Yeah.
So that's a lane and a lane. Yeah, oh, it is two-way now, okay,
Yeah. There's no law there.
Yeah.
right, but
Direction.
so a single travel lane for a single vehicle, typically 12 feet wide. When we say 24, that is a lane and a lane, which allows two vehicles to pass. So in an emergency, if this is blocked or if this is blocked or then there are alternative, I mean, there are alternative ways in and out of there if they need to.
We had a situation here, Wednesday, and on the high tide where a lot of basements flooded and the street was blocked. From, basically from the bridge up to the lights. And there were cars that could not get out of that area at all.
From behind here or from Main Street?
Yeah.
From, you know, anywhere,
Yeah.
car back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was,
And
Yeah, it is tricky
climate
and
change
that's,
is a big deal, and resiliency and trying to build things into existing development it's becoming more and more important. And that's part of the reason why, you know, we're raising this section here. You know, we obviously can't bring that up 5 feet to say that during a storm surge and in a worst of a worst type of condition that, you know, this island is going to be safe. But we've got to match into the environment that we have around it, but we can, you know, raise and improve it as much as we can reasonably without seriously impacting our neighbors. Which is what we've tried to do here.
yeah,
You're kind of
I think.
trying to strike a balance.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
First, so is that parking lot going to be just for bank customers and employees or? will there be some
it won't be signed as such, it's gonna be predominantly for it, but especially weekends, nights for restaurant clientele, and they,
Well, I'm thinking, I live right above Chapman and Chapman.
Okay.
And of course, since we made this lot $100 a month,
wow.
I park.
Okay. So just what, you can't see it here because it's not drawn, but there's another series of parking spots.
Yeah.
Those are gonna stay there and
Yeah.
our goal and we have to go through the town process would be to donate that to the town, so.
I have two other
Yeah,
quick.
absolutely.
For one, for water runoff, you said you're going to be raising it more.
Mhm.
Where the little parking lot
into my building is already a pretty big issue with flooding and freezing. You know,
Yeah, where is yours towards the bank side or towards the,
it's just the entrance of the drive.
also you're over here?
Yeah.
Okay, although this water is gonna be this way.
This is
Oh.
going to come here and go that way.
Okay, and then my,
That's the, where the, Mr. Moore has blocked off.
right, yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so we're gonna,
So, but it's going down.
yes.
Yeah,
way.
so what we've done is we're gonna kind of even this grade out a little bit more. It's still gonna come down this way. But we've got it kind of sloped and pitched so that
So
this is
there's no
gonna be,
place for it to go. There's no place for it to
gonna
go.
be a
today.
swell that comes all the way up to the edge here.
My last question is, how are you planning on maintaining the landscaping?
Oh.
Will you be using pesticides? I know you said you are going to be natural native plants.
We could check, I'm not sure what Bangor Savings does. They maintain it well.
It's gonna be grass. It's gonna be mowed.
I don't think they'll
As far as like fertilizer and pesticides, I don't think they're gonna be
Yeah,
doing a ton of that unless they have a problem, which I can't really.
Yeah.
I mean, anticipate, but
Even with a problem, you know, everything's going straight
Oh, yeah.
to the
the bank,
river.
yeah,
so I'll I know the maintenance person, I'll mention that to them.
Okay,
But, I don't think they need a lot of, because it's just a grass swale,
right.
so they don't need to
Right.
fertilize it.
Do you
Yes,
have
ma'am.
any-
For your request.
Thank you.
oh, there you go.
So my name is Emily Davy, and I am a part owner at 74 Main Street, which abuts the project, and also reside there and also own a business there. And I have concerns not about the bank parking lot, actually, but the project at large and the donation actually of the kind of residual parking to the town. And just a few safety concerns. One actually was the emergency vehicle aspect. Another is the maintenance of that roadway, pedestrian access. I guess these aren't really for Bangor Savings as much as the planning board. I know and I think other neighbors of mine were looking forward to the site visit to just kind of get a better sense of in person, like in reality, how it was all going to flow. And just what it would feel like and look like, and just maybe have markers down or something. So I was hoping to request that maybe the board consider rescheduling the site visit and then voting after that's occurred. Just to show you what our concerns are, and they do have to do with mostly pedestrian safety, access to the parking, lighting in that town parking area, and similar.
Sure. Well, and I may be able to answer some of these right now, because we considered that in the existing conditions there when we did the design. So, I mean, for example, and again, I apologize for my back here, folks.
No, good.
But, you know, through here in this edge, we made sure that we didn't encroach on this travel aisle. I mean, it's a sewer easement, but it's used for access.
I believe it's 17 feet in the plan, right? Is that correct?
The width of this here?
Yeah.
I mean, if I
Or if that's what in the plan I saw anyway, I'm not sure if it's
I mean,
been modified in any way.
could be, but my point being is that this is all the edge of the painted parking that's there right now, and then we developed going back here so that we would encroach on this travel way.
Right. That's actually, so I'm at Courtyard Street. So my concern is more actually if somebody intends to shop on Main Street, wants to park back there, they see it's municipal lot back here, getting safely from their vehicle to actually Main Street. A neighbor of mine right across the street does massage therapy, and I just was speaking with him earlier, has some clients who are older and have some mobility issues and things like that. A lot of my customers, I have a clothing shop, are older and also have some mobility issues. And that street right now, a lot of us are very unclear on who's responsible for its maintenance. if it's one way or two way, if we could have some kind of a barrier or like even a sidewalk. I know that might be asking a ton, but just thinking about how to get people safely from back there to the street, in and out of businesses, and actually really take advantage of the donation of the parking spaces. If that's.
I think these are questions more for you than for me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, and I was also even a little unclear on whether this hearing was just on this or on the project as a whole. I think they're also intertwined, that it seems like, you know,
Yeah.
if you move forward with this now, then maybe a lot of our concerns, we're not sure when and how to address them, so.
Are you referring to like making improvements to Coyad Street?
Well, not improvements, but really maintaining, if that becomes officially a municipal parking lot back there, which I know is under discussion. Again, unclear whether that was like really strictly part of this, but yeah, whose responsibility is it to make sure that people can actually safely park back there and access the town, you know, whatever they're trying to do there in town. And I see it just because I'm sitting in my shop all day, every day, and I just kind of see people really struggling to kind of navigate that now that it is unofficially, but like for all intents and purposes, two-way, and there isn't really a safe walking spot on either side. And my request is really just about rescheduling the site walkthrough to show however many of the board members can make it, what our concerns are, and hopefully have them addressed before, you know, before the next step.
Do you mind if I address
Please.
just a little bit around the, well, for the site visit, obviously it was canceled because of snow. So that's something that I'll put to the board at some point is, you know, reschedule, you know, the board has every right to have a site visit, doesn't necessarily need to have a site visit. It's up to you. So there's that. As far as the project, the scope of the project, right, really is just kind of within this. My approach or my thinking as far as the potential land that may be taken over by the town, that is essentially, it's unrelated. Like the last thing I want to, I don't want there to be any question that there's like a tit for tat kind of like, oh, we would love to have this land. And so, sure, you know, which I don't think anybody, no one suggested that, but that has, you know, nothing to do with whether or not this can be allowed or not. The only thing that I think hopefully that the board considering and that I'm looking at is what the ordinances say as far as what are the standards, what's being proposed, do they meet the standards? So some of, you know, the bigger questions about getting back there, totally relevant.
Yeah.
The town doesn't own or have any rights, you know, interest in any of the land back there. So, you know, yes, there's the municipal, you know, where town and the community and everybody, you know, has their has input.
Currently, right? Not technically.
Yeah, you're right. So it's hard, like the town couldn't say, oh, you know, you have to let residents go back and park back there because the town doesn't own it, or, you know, it's a little bit of a hairy situation because the town, because people do use it informally, kind of publicly, but nothing officially. So it's a little bit of a kind of weird situation.
Right. Yes.
So.
Yeah, I understand that. I think that really my only, not to overcomplicate things, my only request really was to ask you all to maybe consider rescheduling the site visit and then moving forward from there, just so that we can all see, and then maybe we can formulate any follow-up concerns or questions we have better, having actually us seen, you know, how it's going to be laid out, and then just kind of sidebar, but for the construction itself, I think somebody else asked this, will the construction vehicles be able to get in and out through the those two throughways, the drive-through and
If they need to do one-way traffic, just do it with someone controlling the one-way traffic.
Okay, because that is something that would
It's a
I
fairly
think
short duration.
that was my other question is what kind of notification will we get as abutters in terms of like any
We can.
construction underway.
Good meeting, once we pick the contractor, probably a local contractor, sit down so that you have a superintendent on site with his cell phone number and that it goes well.
Did I understand just now that you were pointing at the southeast entrance to the bank?
So what they're planning, so I know
Great.
there's concerns about courtyard and the way we design this is you enter in this direction, still two-way.
I'm talking about the construction vehicles.
Most of them are gonna come right through
Great.
that entrance.
Great.
And it's not a big project.
I was worried about the turning radius inside of that. There's a light post.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so, and that gets shifted over.
When they demoed the building, what did they have there for, did they use that same route?
I don't.
No,
I bet they would.
they destroyed the roads over there and they were so heavy vehicles that I have at my house was built in 1790. And I have cracks in the walls of the vehicles going through and they destroyed the road and they didn't fix it after.
Right.
So we have a big issue. I've been fixing the road, but I mean, I think that
Yeah, we'll talk.
that was
about
the big issue, yeah.
Bringing them in.
And to answer the board's question on the residual land, we bring it up in the sense that we purposely designed the site so that the residual land made sense. So we didn't cut it off by only allowing like half a parking lane or that sort of thing. But from the town's perspective, and we've had this conversation with Andy, that's a whole nother discussion with the community. What do you want to do with this? Do the neighbors want, do you want sidewalks? It's a community discussion. And at the end of the day, it's your council and your community, because what Andy said, it goes to town vote. So what does the community want with that? If they might say, we don't want it, keep maintaining it, do something. So
Right, I mean, is that an option if the bank keeps it?
what's that? It is an option. Yeah, no, I mean, they're very good listeners. And so when we brought this up, the question was, well, what are you doing with this? Well, we really don't have a need. So that's why it was brought up. So that's, it's, to answer your question, there would be more discussions on the town property. That's the right time to bring in sidewalks and everything else. So our real focus is just this small piece. Here, so.
I have a comment I'll make, I agree with Emily on postponing this till we do a site visit. John Neville is my name, Elaine Eskison's husband. And my concern right now, it's not being addressed at all, is the fishing pond that was developed right here. It floods and it makes it impossible for customers to get to Main Street, any of these businesses here. They've got, the water's 8 inches maybe when it rains and it's slow to drain. And if this was slow to go down into your, farm or whatever you call it, it we could drain it. It's been, the easements for the sewer have collapsed, the fill wasn't compacted properly over the years. And the heavy traffic has compressed it, so we've got this puddle that basically closed off the whole area for pedestrian traffic when it's wet. And at night, there's no light there, and it's really difficult for people. And it's not being addressed here at all. I don't know if I waded through that puddle to get you to take of it, that's why, but it's difficult.
Is that on your property?
That's on their property, the bank's property, yeah.
That was a question that I
They're like
had.
3 feet and the puddle's out past that. The bank owns it.
That's bank owned property? Yeah, okay.
But it's separate.
Yeah, no, and that's part of the issue is like there's three lots here, which one being addressed. And then, like I said, it's kind of a little bit hairy because then there's lots of easements about who has access to what. So that wasn't entirely clear who owns what, but it sounds like from what everybody's saying now, that courtyard, that part of Courtyard Street, or is all of Courtyard Street essentially owned by Bangor Savings?
No, only 10 feet of them.
So the bank owns up here, cross over to here and then up.
Okay.
And is that? You can see this. So is it up here or is it here?
It's right.
Because here's the property line right here.
I thought that the bank owns 10.5 of coverage.
So the bank property line, here's the bank.
So they don't own it, so
Okay.
who owns it?
Bank property line comes up here, here, over to here, up here, over here.
So let's talk after and let's get
Yeah.
you and the bank together, because that's a separate.
So
issue
depending
that the
depending on
plan
what it is.
It's a separate issue from this project.
Yeah.
Down this way
Yeah,
now.
so we'll-
But if the grade was lowered a bit,
Mhm.
it would work and not have a failure.
Who has been the one
Once
that's
this is-
built?
Once this is completed, you're not gonna want to lower it 2 inches here,
Well, we're not,
you know.
no, we're
That's
not,
fine,
we're not
that's fine.
changing grade here. We're matching this exactly where it is right now.
There's a high spot right here. And a low spot here.
Yeah.
That
That's why we need a site review.
is impassable when it's raining for pedestrian.
Okay, but that's also outside the scope of.
It's outside the scope
Yeah,
of
but
this
if you
project.
finish this project, it's gonna be complicated to reduce that puddle. Cause you're not, you know, it can be all done while you're doing this work. What I'm saying.
The other thing to do is fill in that low spot.
Well, you can, yeah,
Hmm.
but it's, the natural drainage is off to the northeast. This way, this direction,
No, I understand that.
yeah.
I do
It
understand.
would be simpler to grade
Yeah,
it, so it's naturally running, it's been raised. There, by successive paving has raised that area. To make the puddle, and we've had slumping in the sewer line. Compaction of the fill put on top of those lines. And it's made a depression,
Mhm.
yeah, so
We'll look into
it can be addressed, I think this is a.
Oh, there's lots of ways.
This is a
Sure.
time to address it rather than wait until everything's done.
No.
This one, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to,
No.
trying to make it better for everyone.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, you get a commitment that we're gonna work with you to resolve that.
Sure.
Yeah, so some of this gets into kind of like what the town has the authority to, make a private property owner do or not. Not to say that everything you're saying isn't totally relevant, but when we go to look at the ordinance and say, what's the project? What can the town compel someone to do? What can't they? Why could you reject a project? Why can't you? This is where there's boundaries. There's certain things that the town just doesn't have the authority to do. And so, and it's like, and this is one of the other reasons of why it's important to know exactly who owns what, where is it and who's maintaining it and all of that. So we need to nail all of that down. And it sounds like there's going to be some discussions, and then there's also the other side of town might not be able to make anybody do anything, but maybe the bank can, will want to do it for, public relations purposes and things like
That's
that.
the right thing to do, and this is the time to do it. Let's make the connection.
That's the point I'm trying to make, I think, I feel this is a good time to do it, rather than have to
And if we could
redo it
capture
twice.
some of that water and send it
Yeah.
away.
Measure twice, cut once,
Yep.
Yes.
It's very simple,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, thanks, guys.
You bet.
Excuse me.
What month
Thank
are
you.
you looking at doing this? Just.
So we're kind.
March.
We were planning. We're kind of constrained. We're gonna do it last fall and start the process last summer. And then we all, because we're not from Damariscotta, we heard about Pumpkin Fest. And that you cannot take over that parking lot during Pumpkin Fest. So that gives us a window of mid-March to the 1st of June. It has to be done. So that's kind of our concern about if we miss this site walk, it could be a year delay. I mean, because we're right on the edge of getting the contractor lined up, getting it done before the tourists show up, because we know when they show up, they're gonna show up. And it's a game changer. So, and we're not going at Pumpkin Fest because we were told, don't interrupt Pumpkin Fest. Which is pretty cool, because I got to read about it and I'm bringing the family up next year, so that was good. The last thing I want to.
Got a question in the back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you got one guy that.
I have a question to what you were speaking about, Michael. Seems to me that the gray area is what's the traffic control situation on that whole street? Because before the fences went up, and as I understand it, the bank put the fences.
No, no.
There was, no?
No,
Well,
no,
I've been misinformed
Yeah,
then.
it was the neighbor to the right.
But in any case, before the fences went up, that was becoming an increasing thoroughfare from the upper town. And there was increasing traffic. And I think it was unclear as to who makes decisions about what would control where the outlet would have to be, how far people could go, southwest. There are a whole lot of decisions that will be controlled by, if the fences are down and that becomes just a through street, it becomes a traffic source that is not something the town really wants. And someone needs to address that, how that will be affected by this completion of this project.
So I can answer some of that. So what they're trying, the way we design the site is, if you're on Main Street, they have that entrance to the right of the building. And that would go behind the building and around, and then you exit through the drive-through. So they're trying to avoid all the cross traffic. And that's why they put the parking lot directly behind the bank.
Does
To
the
keep that
exit say which way you're supposed to go? You exit going out on the main street, or?
No, you would
going-
exit because you'll be facing the drive-through and those two exits. So the easiest path is to go just straight, and then you can go left or right on Main Street.
But is the bank gonna make a decision for the people who use it to turn right or to turn left? Because that will affect that thoroughfare.
They won't restrict, they can't say you can't take a right turn. It'll
Yeah.
be obvious will be to go straight, but they can't.
Well, somebody could make that.
I think,
decision.
are you asking about a right turn or left turn onto Main Street? You're talking about onto Court Street.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. So I think this is one of the fun parts about this application is Courtyard Street, the connection from Courtyard Street to Elm Street. This is it's all private property. And this is one of the weird things about this application that I brought to the attention of the board is like Courtyard Street's not really a street, right? It's just like it functions as one because I guess until recently, no one's prevented anybody, the public, from using it. But the reality is it's private property, and the town, the municipality doesn't have any rights of way to say, yeah, our residents can use it, or and until recently, nobody prevented it one way or the other. So just kind of assumed like, yeah, we're using it. So the traffic control thing's a little bit difficult. I think that one of the issues is where it makes sense to go from this parking lot to the drive-through. It's like, well, yeah, that is the obvious way, and that's probably how most people will go. Do you want, I guess, if you want to control and make sure that people aren't going right or left, do you want to like block off Court Street now? And the town really, I don't think we could make anybody block Court Street off there, make the bank force you to go straight.
Simply achieved though, with an exit sign and an arrow that doesn't prohibit anyone from turning, but people will just go to the egress. What's an egress?
That's easy.
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah, we could put it like right here, exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be easy.
Go see the egress.
And I think the town does absolutely have the right to say, directional signage, like this is how this needs to function.
Oh, that's
Right. So that we can do, but
I'm Sumner Richards. I have 50 Main Street. I just have a question as to, have we lost this roadway since that was blocked off? Please, people used to be able to drive through behind that needs some, come this way to get to this parking lot, but one of the streets now it's been blocked off. That's not.
it's
Have to talk to the property owner to the.
It's private property.
East.
right.
Well, I know it's private. I mean, so is all of the seven. You can put a fence right here if you want to.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So, and this gets into the, doing the deed research and title searches and all of that, and seeing like, was this ever established? Wasn't it? If it was, has it been maintained, continued, which is above what the planning board.
So the town doesn't know whether he's in his legal rights?
I
Yeah.
sorry, I did look into it. There is a legal right of way. I was told that basically in order for the town to make him remove the stupid fence that he's put up, somebody will have to make like a formal complaint and start that process, which once we're settled in it for an old time plan. So I would like to do that with me. You can do it as a group.
Well, and one of the things that had come up at the previous meeting too was the confusion around who owns what back here, and we have gone through, and the bank has hired title attorneys and everything else to find out exactly who owns what, so that we make sure that we're not, impacting neighbors, we're staying on our property. The request was that would that information be shared with the town, and of course.
Right, no, I know that Wayne owns the other half of that parking lot as well as that fence.
But what-
Igor is actually much easier to deal with. He is as far as.
So and to say what that answers probably the last couple of things I gotta say. A lot of effort was made to stay with, I'll use an elementary term, paint between the lines. So this is a specific tax and lot line. So we didn't go over any easement lines or anything else, just to get rid of the gray. And as you saw all the documentation that you had before you from the neighbor, that's what created some of the other issues, because we over responded. So we gave you an old title search that we did a year and a half ago to try to figure out what it was, and we put it as an exhibit. And it talked about Griffin Lane. And that is not part of our application. We have no desire to use Griffin Lane. The part in question is this area here. And you can see very clearly that we've cut off access to it from Bangor, so they have no intention of using it. So that's what's in question. So I know the attorneys they put a lot of time. I wish they would have just picked up the phone and said, no interest in it. So that's a lot. You gotta read a lot of words for us to say, yeah, we agree. We don't. If they have rights, they're not using them, and we're gonna work. We'll reach out to the neighbor. I think the two attorneys know each other. We'll just get it's a lot about for something could have been answered in 10 seconds. So that's what we have.
Do I have any other questions that are pertinent to the actual project here?
Sorry.
Do I have any other questions that are pertinent to the actual project? Which is the parking lot?
I feel that it's the whole project, that if the town is gonna take the triangle, then we're gonna start dealing with a different issue with the town. A lot of questions that they haven't been answered. So, but I don't know if the town is gonna answer those questions before or after because it seems like it's a done deal. The town is gonna take that part.
No, it's not a done deal. The town does not own that.
The process is, I think, Andy will explain the process, but it has to go to town vote at minimum. So does that mean as a public? I don't know, but this is, and if it becomes too squishy and anxious, then it won't happen. So I think more discussion has to happen on the residual lane.
Do you know if the bank kind of wants to get rid of it?
I think they're indifferent. I mean, we sat with the town, they said, what are you doing with this? And I said, and everyone kept saying, we need public parking, we gotta support our downtown businesses. Okay, so we were just listeners for who was at the table at the time. If the community in the neighborhood says different, then, I mean, you're all Bangor's customers, they don't want a controversy, they just wanna, they thought they were doing something.
People are gonna park there anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what they said. And what they did want is what this neighbor did, is start putting up fences and start saying, well, we're not gonna pave it, we're not gonna plow, because they're plowing a lot of this. So you got a great neighbor and they're good listeners and they'll work with it. So,
I'm impressed.
that's good.
Um,
No, I won't sign your petition. I'm sorry. I can't, I'm not a resident.
Do you have a contact info or if somebody did have another plan that they would like, be done in the area?
You and I talk after. Okay.
Okay, anybody else got any more questions that are actually pertinent to the project itself?
I just wonder, this may be for the next section, but there was a letter from a lawyer or something like that. Okay, then I have nothing else to say.
All right, so nobody else has any more questions. We're gonna close this public hearing. And open it back up to business. I believe Mike has got some information about that letter.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I just want to maybe respond to it, just a couple of things. So as far as, yeah, that piece that the town may or may not take over, the only way for a town to accept land like that is it has to be accepted by the, like a town meeting. So there's a whole other process that needs to happen. And that's why just like the fact that the idea has been tossed out there, it's like, there's been conversation about it. Certainly we don't want to hide any of that, but it's gone as far as this basically. There is talk about doing a accessible boat launch there. And I think, the bank has was there conduit to get power out there?
Yeah, make sure the grades work. So we didn't want to do something that similar to the drainage issue. We don't want to do something that prevents a good project.
Right. So it's like there's electricity that goes out there. It could be used for lighting at boat launch. It could just be nothing because it's a tube, I guess, that goes underneath the parking lot so that they don't have to tear it up later. Which my understanding was just done out of their good graces because it is, if the residents don't want that piece of land, the towns can't take it. So all of
I
that.
would also like to throw one more piece of information in there also, is the town really could not accept that unless it had clear public access to it. And from what I'm seeing and hearing here right now, there is none.
They might not.
There is none.
Yeah.
So it becomes a moot point real quick.
Good, yeah.
Right. So that's having the bank do as much of the title research as we can get the bank to do. We're happy to let them come up with whatever answers they can come up with. And then, obviously Judy Metcalf has done some title work and research in that as well. And so there's more information and that's good. This is the letter that was referred to that I just received today. It was made out to me and to John Eaton, the chairman. And it raises some questions, which so I've spoken with the town's attorney, and and then separate from this, there's also correspondence from the bank's attorney, Nicholas Morrow. And so there's still some questions and we can go through it. I'll, discuss it with the board. But yeah, title certainty is always. It's hard.
Deal with is legal access,
and so I
to that problem.
Yeah, and because it's not part of this, the site that is part of this application. I do have a couple questions that I want to make sure we nail down. One of the questions or it says, to the extent the applicant seeks to claim the right to develop or use any portion of Griffin Lane based on its title, does the applicant claim any? Yeah, that's to the extent the applicant seeks to use Griffin Lane for any construction or proposed development, or really just access generally, at least as it relates to this application.
No.
So that, and I think that, there's another issue of relying on the square footage that's in Griffin Lane. From my review, if the planning board assumes that Griffin Lane is not owned by Bangor Savings, it doesn't affect this application in any way.
It does not.
So it's like, having all of the facts is always nice, but it's not really relevant to this application, to what's being proposed here. So I don't think that I don't think it's unreasonable to try and get, to get the town's attorney to weigh in and provide some kind of legal clarity. If the board wants that, I think totally reasonable. I also think that it's there's certainly some reasonable questions to be raised, but I think the answers are for the most part, like it's separate from this application.
Those would come into play more if the other piece of land gets developed, and then that's when that comes into play.
Right.
According to this proposal here, this is a mute issue.
Right. If there was some landscaping or a building that was going in there, or if there was some density requirement that required that, amount of land, then I think the planning board might want to say, okay, you need to define whether or not you own this. So right now, it's not really part of this. So,
Got a gentleman here who would like to speak. Sit right down here, so you can speak in.
Yeah, thanks.
Hearing's over.
Good evening, Timothy O'Connor, 60 Main Street. I'm just concerned, it's not entirely moot if the bank's title search, which is potentially erroneous, kind of gets into the record as the judgment on title here, because this is going to just start up later potentially. And in a similar way, if I can just finish up that I think his name is Michael Diudi, the surveyor. He used previous and possibly problematic surveys of his own to help with this survey. So that's not a complaint against this project at all. It has nothing to do with this project. But do you see how something gets in the system and then it's stuck there?
Absolutely.
All right, that's my concern with the title search. Thank you.
And I'd like to
Please address that.
make a suggestion. So in our application, we provided at the request of the board, which was our mistake. We shouldn't have provided. And it was just for clarity. You asked for as much title information you have. So we gave you an old memo. My proposal is if you move to approve, you put a condition that component of the application be removed. It can be a simple condition. That way it's taken out, it goes away. We don't have to amend our approval, and then we've got a clean, because it really didn't belong there. We did it, try to help the town, because everyone's trying to figure out who owns with that. So that would be my suggestion. Just make a motion as part of the motion and say that are whatever it was. I think she said Article 4 or Exhibit 4 be removed from the application. Because it has no.
let's see. Let me see what that.
I couldn't find it either. I think it's probably the title right and interest section.
4.
Michael, it's probably an article within the title right and interest.
Yeah, section 4 is title right or interest, ownership, property deeds outlining the ownership, attached for the review, memorandum of easements. So that is it's page 4.1. Yeah, section 4.1. It's about that far in. I don't know if that helps you at all.
Yes.
Exhibit 4.
Yeah, section 4. Yeah, that's it right.
And
Yeah.
trust me, it was just a number. So as someone who was interpreting, we never went through the whole process because it was unwieldy. I said, let's just paint within the lines and then we'll figure it out in the future. Because it's some of this was just in the 1800s. So
That's why I don't disagree that, questions about title are totally relevant, but so far I don't think there's any questions as far as ownership of this parcel.
Which is what we're dealing.
Right. Right. So that's not to say, the town, I don't think the planning board has any interest in saying, in deciding this, that is between, two property owners and, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so those were that is, I give you that kind of background. This is also very new. So like I said, I talked with the attorney today, but she hadn't really had a chance to dig into this. She said she had reviewed it and.
Well, the answer is they're not planning on using that stuff.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Nothing to contest.
That's right. So there, so that is that. Okay. I did have some questions. Okay, so the lighting, unless the board has anything, I was just gonna go into the findings of fact that I.
Go ahead, please do.
The lighting levels that you mentioned, and it sounds like you have addressed them
There's an updated photometrics plan
in what,
the packet that I gave you before the meeting.
yeah, yep.
Understood it, yeah.
Okay, and so I don't think, I think you gave one to the board. I don't think I've seen it yet, but the important part is, do you have,
No, I meant the criteria.
Yeah.
you updated it so that there's,
Yes. We updated it to meet the criteria.
yeah, so it's no, what was it? No more than 1/10 of a foot candle on the abutting properties. And parking lot shall not exceed a maximum of 1 foot.
Oh, no worries.
Okay. There are,
That's the average has.
is that what it's saying?
Yeah.
I thought the way that it.
Parking lot shall not
ordinance
exceed a
was written was that
maximum.
It had to be an average.
There's some,
That's
Some-
true. If you had a light here, there's 1 foot under here, it'd be dead dark. Right there.
That is.
They did one.
okay, I appreciate that you did add another light to try and,
Sure, and it lowered the line.
so what, how tall are the lights now? Do you know?
The one that's there now.
No, no, the mounting, oh, it looks like the mounting height.
Yep.
Is 16 feet, okay. The average, max. And, okay. Yeah,
You gonna be turning these off at night or turning them down?
so that, yeah, which is another,
That's another big fat.
which is a
bonus
question
right
that I
there.
had. I think that there was, the board can put a condition on that. Say. During nighttime hours, which we would, which I think the board would want to define, exterior light shall be turned off. Or down, I don't know, I think,
I would, given that particular neighborhood, you start turning all the lights off down in there,
that's
you
I'm,
could create a problem.
yeah, I might not suggest.
I would say dim them by halfway or whatever. You guys all.
I would be in favor of that, because I agree with you.
I mean,
in
you
that
start
back, in
turning
that
all
back
those lights
pocket.
off downtown, dead black.
Right, and they talked about adding motion
Oh,
to it
motion.
once they do go off, so I think, we get that confirmed, because correct, we don't want it pitch black down there.
Right. So I
You could have
think,
somebody-
If someone's down there.
you could have maintenance people out there at the bank or something that went out there way after dark, and it's gotta be lit somehow.
yeah, right, that's why I don't think turning them off is maybe the solution.
I think reducing them by 50% is the
Reducing
answer.
them.
I really do.
Okay, well, we can see if they're agreeable to that condition. Access to the site, so this is. The existing access to the site is not, well, at least this is what I wrote. The existing access to the site is not impacted by the development proposed under the application. Therefore, it's beyond the scope of this review. My logic on this is they are replacing the parking lot. They're not expanding the building. It's not as though they're adding a new use or even altering the use in any way. I wouldn't expect it to be generating more or less traffic than what's already there. They're just basically rebuilding the parking lot.
Correct.
So,
May actually reduce it some.
right.
It's certainly going to improve the lot itself.
Yeah,
by
right.
far.
And the run.
Absolutely. Everything about it's a win.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's an improvement, but,
Did you hear what we were discussing about the lighting? You have the ability to reduce the candle power on that by 50%.
They have now, it's amazing.
Would you guys would be agreeable to reducing the, like after all the movies and stuff get out at like 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
11 o'clock?
It's more safety and safety for the neighborhood. to
Right,
burn
yes.
stories in the back, and if you make it dark, it says, please come here after
It's
dark.
just
So,
looking for trouble
yeah,
down there.
So, yeah, we'll do that and we'll.
That lighting is not really bright
It's not
anyway.
terribly
No,
bright.
it's, you're at the minimum now.
Yeah.
It's just, I wouldn't reduce it, cause at 1 foot candle, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
you
that's,
probably got 20 foot candles here.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
One's
easy.
not much.
No, it's no.
no, it's, yeah, right, that's about the minimum that you're gonna
It's
have
a dark
effective,
sky,
but,
so it's,
which I assume is the intention of the ordinance is to be dark sky, you know, have a, basically a fairly dark nighttime environment.
just.
It's not annoy the neighbors.
But, you know, but then, right, that, the flip side is,
That's a
Safety, so.
diffused one candle power. Down.
Right.
so.
It's not much.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
So I think what has been discussed is having the lights dim by 50% after a certain time, like 10 o'clock,
I think 11,
11 o'clock.
say 11 to
Yeah.
5, 11 to
11 to
6.
5,
I think
11
I
to
think we'll
People
find.
start coming
Motion
into work
on
around
it.
5,
Yeah.
so 11 to 5.
What I'd really like with the motion is to put 50 foot candles to chase them away for 5 minutes and then.
Yeah, I would like that myself.
Yeah.
So did you get that part, Mike, where during the reduction time hours, he also has motion in there, so if that's triggered, they come back up to the full strength.
I think that's probably,
So-
if they can do it,
Well,
that
I don't know what's possible in that
the
world
lady
anymore.
that lives right next door.
Yeah.
Didn't want.
didn't want the motion
Didn't want
sensor.
the motions, cause she said.
As long as
click
it's
on
not
it.
shining through somebody's apartment window or something like that.
Right.
Well, and I think that's the whole point of the cutoff, the full cutoff is it should not
Yeah.
go into anybody's windows
Mhm.
at the height that you have and the coverage that they're demonstrated to cover. It
Right.
shouldn't affect that. And if it does, then we got to look at that through
Right.
the ordinance again. And there certainly is channels that they can come to the code enforcement and say X, Y, and Z, and then that gets followed up again. So,
Plus, your ordinance says 0 at the property line.
Right.
So.
0.1.
which you're not
Well,
gonna.
point, yeah, right, 0.1 of the property
You're
line.
gonna-
So,
At the edge of your parking lot, you're gonna be about 0.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
so,
Did you hear the height, 16 feet?
16 feet.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
so, I've got, I know 11 to 5, 11 PM to 5 AM, dimmed by 50%. Are we doing a motion sensor
If they can work-
activated
if
back
they
up
can
to
work that in
100%?
There, that would be great.
We'll try, but
Yeah.
Like I said,
don't
I
think we
don't
need
know
a condition.
what's feasibly, the capability of doing that
Okay,
and what's feasible with that.
But if
And
50
honestly too, I mean, we can reach back to our supplier and,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll tell us what. Kind of makes sense, and it might be that, you know, one of the lights turns off, but 2 stay on, or whatever they do to get those reduced levels. With the switching and that sort of thing, but we're,
With the low levels in that parking lot, if it's not feasible, I'd say just leave them on all the time, leave them on full strength.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not a lot
not
of
gonna
light.
be too bright anyway.
One
Huh?
quick.
It's not gonna be real
no,
bright.
I don't think so. I'm just, so what I'm wondering is maybe we can define this as,
you want us to sit.
A, we're gonna define the nighttime hours as being between 11 PM and 5 AM. And the lights are gonna, the town is gonna basically reserve the right to require that you dim them by 50% during
If it
nighttime.
becomes an issue, give us a call.
And then
Yeah.
with the intention that we're gonna, that you'll work with the neighbors in the town to,
This is my door right here.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're plenty far.
yeah,
Sure.
Good, we know where to angle those.
so, yeah, that's what I want to make sure is that the town can say to you, dim them, but I understand we want
We want safety.
We want
Yeah,
safety
I
and-
think the condition
We
is
do
that,
too,
is that
making
the,
it
the town
black
will work with the
background
applicant.
there,
The
bad
applicant will work with the town to achieve satisfactory light levels
yeah,
Make
during
the
off
ordinance.
business hours.
yeah. Okay, so there's that. Let's see what else I got in here.
Snow removal aspect, but yeah, plow.
That's
blasting
just
off
like-
the back.
okay, so
Need
I got a parking lot with a big line.
area.
In
Other
here,
than that,
yeah, that's what those, the drainage swells help.
My
That's
outside
why
floodlights
it's-
put out more light than
It's not on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
white
long
snow
shower.
storage.
And then it just.
Yeah, when it melts, they drain.
after 3.5 hours.
Better than a
And
big.
after that.
Which we have.
then
Which you have
it's
now. Voice check.
going
Yeah.
brighter.
So, I have a couple questions. One is, what is the square footage of the building?
Gross is 4,500. We respond to
Okay.
the.
And it was in the application.
It wasn't, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
you
it
know,
was very
It was
good.
a little bit
It
thick,
was
and
in
I
the
think I'm
traffic,
tight on
traffic
time.
calculation section.
Okay,
Footprint is less than that, but for the 2 floors, it's
Yeah.
4,500.
45, you said gross, net?
Gross.
Gross, okay. 500. And the proposed on-site stormwater system, because there is one drain on there?
There is one catch basin there, and
Yeah.
I outlined this in the response to the comment, but our surveyor wasn't able to get the lid off of it.
Okay,
It seems to be functioning okay. It just, the layout didn't work well with, it doesn't make sense to have it there because it's not gonna be effective. So we're gonna add that little field inlet and core in, but when we do that, we're gonna have to get the top off the existing catch basin anyway.
Mhm.
So at that point, we'll look at it, we'll check if it needs cleaned, if it needs maintenance, we'll be able to see the outlet. And be able to evaluate it at that time to make sure that it's good, looking good, but based on what we see right now, seems to be working fine.
okay. And do you know where it drains to?
No. No, surveyor looked for an outlet pipe,
Story of Damariscotta.
Yeah.
Just like everything else.
Eventually in the bank.
but we'll be able to find it once we get it open. We just
That's what
haven't been able
I
to get it
figured.
open yet.
What I'm hoping is that it does not tie into the town's stormwater and that it just hopefully goes to the water.
Right. Well, I mean, even if it ties to the town stormwater, that's okay, I think, as long as it doesn't tie to the town sanitary. Right?
Yes,
So you don't have separation issues.
right. Yeah, and I don't think it would present a capacity issue for the stormwater
No.
system, the
No.
municipal stormwater system, but
Less is going in post than.
Right, we're actually reducing the amount of.
Sure, yeah.
Because when the ops center was there, it actually collected some from the operations center, so that was kind of at a low point. And you had an area in here that was also draining back that way that now is going away. That's getting a solid cover, and this is only getting what comes in from this side.
Where's the catch basin?
It's a small one right here.
Okay, thanks.
I just, so if you find out that it's tied into the sanitary system, can you get rid of it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'd like to just put some condition in there to
Sure.
that effect, but I just want to make sure we address it.
All down, it goes into the river.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Kinda what we
Honestly, it
thought.
might go nowhere.
And goes into the river.
The erosion control contact,
As soon as we get a contractor. we'll tell you who it
Okay.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be the site contractor when one is selected.
okay, so I will make that a condition 2, just so we can do the mixed use nature of the adjacent building. Is there a buffer? So commercial use, and I don't have the quote here, commercial use existing in the site already established without a landscape buffer. There is residential use like on 2 of the neighboring parcels. And a buffer or fence could be required between commercial uses and abutting residential uses.
This is an existing parking lot.
Yeah, that's why, that's, okay.
And we have 2 parking.
And that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to, I don't want to make any assumptions here, they're not my decisions to
I'll make
make.
that one for you.
Um,
We can vote on it too if you want.
did you, no, recorded, it's all there. The final elevations of the parking lot, I assume you provided in the.
Yeah, and we raised them as you request.
Okay. And were you able to like adjust whatever the 100-year elevation, or at least to follow that?
Yeah. follow
11.
that, Yeah, but it's not a structure, so we got it close.
Yeah.
And
So that's what this.
Oh, that's what, okay,
Yeah,
good.
so that's what this is. So if you look at this, then I'll.
Hmm.
So this is, and again, this is not really even elevation 10. This is closer to elevation 9.
Okay.
Okay, so this is really elevation 10,
Mhm.
which is what the base flood is out in the river. So this is kind of where it's gonna be.
Mhm.
So yeah, by raising this corner and raising this section, we're able to both get
And we get
all the new, all the new.
So is this like, is right here lower than it is it planned this will be lower than it is currently or no?
It's gonna be close to where it is right now. We mentioned elevation 10,
Mhm.
right up here, basically. So we're gonna do enough to create a shallow swale up this way. So this will be slightly lower than the pavement next to it.
Mhm.
But we're only talking about half a foot.
Yeah.
Just enough to get the water to run.
Yeah, no, all I'm
Yeah.
thinking about is the flood water going to come further in. I mean, it's gonna be in softer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
the end.
okay.
Not any further than it already does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh, and the location of the riprap, is it?
Yeah, yep, show that.
So that was.
Oh, is that all will be riprap?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
That's gonna go basically down to high water, and that's just to stabilize that embankment. It's gonna come up here a little bit. Just because we had to kind of steepen those side slopes on that swell.
Okay.
Just to protect those edges.
Okay.
That's shown in the plan set too.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think that parking areas shall be designed to prevent stormwater runoff from flowing directly into the Damariscotta River, where feasible to retain all runoff on site, but I think yeah, there's grass between all of the pavement, so.
Not today.
No, yes, in what you're proposing. Okay, I don't think I have any other questions. There is, I would love to be able to like really look at this and make sure that all of the standards are met. I don't want to delay this project more. I know that they want to get going, but I also want to look at this. I'm not sure, it sounds like, I guess the first question is, does the board want to reschedule the site visit?
Exactly what I was gonna bring.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's required. No, it's not required.
Not required, and I don't think it's necessary. Because
Well, I would say we have to look at the site review based on,
the project,
what's being asked. And I think the information we have at this point, I don't have any questions that could be answered by, a site visit.
99% of the comments made by the folks that want that, the folks who were here and the folks that wanted to have
Yeah.
this site walk dealt with not this project, but peripheral stuff all the way around it, including
What I heard.
property that doesn't even belong to the bank,
Mm,
which, I mean, as far as redoing this parking lot, I don't really need to go see that. Like I said, the town taking over that other piece of property should be dealt with at that point in time, because first of all, they're gonna have to establish some public access to it,
Sure.
and there is none at this point. The town very likely will never have that. Unless somebody gives them some decent public access across their property, and I'm not seeing that happen.
And again, even if they do, these are still two different projects.
It's
all
still two
day long.
different projects,
So
Yeah.
we have to focus on the one that's in front of us.
right?
And again, I agree. I don't think a site visit is going to change anything of that, knowing what they're proposing to do.
Yeah. No, it's not. Not,
I agree with this, but I just want to speak for my neighbors who left and his puddle.
No, we're gonna take, that's a separate issue out of
Thank
here.
you.
it's a whole,
And I think that has to be done as a good gesture from the bank to you all, because again, we have no control over that. And again, it doesn't involve in this project. It potentially would in the other one, but I think that has to be just done between the bank and the folks down there.
Ain't my puzzle.
in all honesty.
Right,
the
I think-
Sewer department ought to go down there and fill the ditch.
Well, and that could be an easy fix to it as well.
The
but-
bank didn't produce it,
Couple of issues that could take care of, hopefully not here.
right? It's not my department on this particular project, unfortunately.
No, I think we're comfortable that we meet all the ordinance and unfortunately, if we get delayed, my fear is it could be a year because of the pumpkin fest. So that's, sorry for the pressure, but that's the pressure we're under.
Well, and it's no pressure. I mean, I think certainly before we come out here tonight, it's gonna be hinged on Michael reviewing this, and then if everything else meets, then I'm guessing it's probably be able to go forward, but it definitely won't be a straight go tonight, because he has to review and make sure that his
Can
facts and
we-
findings are,
Make that a
Can
condition.
we approve this contingent on him going over?
that's what I mean, that's what,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't see any reason that we can't do that.
One last question about the lighting. I mean, there's gonna be subsequent, we have to go study lighting. It sounded like you weren't finalized on that. This is not to slow anything
Oh, I'm
down.
pretty good with this lighting.
I think
You decided?
This
The
is the
original
final
one we submitted didn't meet the ordinance, the new one does, so we've resubmitted
The
it.
new one in the public records too. So we can
Yes.
go and
Oh, yeah.
find
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, anything that I've got, you can have.
So that's 11 to 5 PM, dim to 15%?
Dim to 50%.
50%, okay. And how many candle feet or however you?
Foot candle, so
Is in 50%.
now I don't know if this is exactly how light
Set
works.
up, I think,
It
they're
would
like
be-
just under 2 foot candles underneath each fixture, so that would be down
That'd
to about one.
Yeah.
be- Yeah, but that's
So- right.
directly under them.
Directly under it.
Directly
That
under is gonna
literally
go
means it's
from,
going to be dark for the most part.
The thing is, when
Most
that's,
of that
when that's
parking
lit
lot.
up, that's not very
That is
bright.
not
No.
very bright.
No.
Sorry, I don't know my candle
Mhm.
brightness. Thank you.
It's pretty dim.
All right,
right, yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
trade-off with the crime and I get it.
And this is why the off-site maximum is 0.1, which means, I think this, again, I don't know exactly if this is how,
You can't see point one.
but it's gonna be 0.05 when it's dimmed
Yeah.
at night.
Okay.
Which is,
I assume
It's
that's how
dark.
that,
Yeah, some kind of-
it's not some kind of, I don't know, log scale.
I'll say for the record, I'm very impressed by this. Thank you.
Okay, so
That may actually be too dark down.
I
there,
think so
but-
too. I was just thinking that same thing.
I honestly think it is, but you know what, with the fever, with people wanting these lights turned down, I mean, if it turns out to,
It turns out to be
Create
a
a
problem, we
problem.
can adjust the lights.
Safety
I mean, you
is
can always
is-
come back.
If
So-
if
And
this is,
say,
if
look,
this
we
is
got the
adjustable, it could be adjusted.
Yeah.
That's what I think you can find out from your folks.
yeah. Well, that's why I think if you structure the condition more generally, as in, the town will work with the applicant to come up with a reasonable, light reduction policy during off business hours.
We'd just like to be part of that
Yep.
when it happens.
Mhm.
How will we
You can
know?
be.
Was that?
I'm sure you can be. It's all public.
Read the paper every day and find out.
Yeah.
Rats.
Or check the website. I'm trying to get everything on there.
But.
Um, Well, and I think there's always the avenue for you to,
Nightlight.
I'm concerned about the crime too.
Yeah, so I
yeah,
mean, that's,
It's a trade-off. right?
and I think you certainly, that avenue is always open for the public to, if they have lights on and you feel it's too bright, then you take that complaint to the code enforcement officer. They go back and investigate that the next night. So regardless of what we say here tonight, if there's a concern, you go to the code enforcement officer, file that complaint. He in turn looks at it and then works with the company. And that's from here on out. I mean, once we say they drop it down to 50%, that may be too little,
Yeah.
so you could
Maybe.
have that argument as well. So
Very satisfying answer. Thank you.
I'll save you-
absolutely.
I'll save you a step. Go to the branch manager, reach out to them, they'll reach out to Jason, we'll have a conversation and they'll all get resolved.
Do I have to
And
open an
and if
account?
that, what's that?
Do I have to open an account?
No, you don't, just, I mean, it is just
But
simple.
the problem you get into with that is then it's right for him, but it's not right for this one. So if it's through the code enforcement officer, we have a chain that we can follow and then say, no, we've looked at it because of this and it's X.
That sounds good.
I'm just going through, because I want to make sure that if we're gonna put conditions on this tonight and give an approval,
We need the.
I want to make sure we nail it down so that it's.
Yeah.
Okay,
Take
so.
time, Mike.
Can the mowing be made part of the plan so that there's something, if I do have to go to the code officer, I could say, look, they're not mowing it. And he's-
He'll-
I
Trust
hate
me.
Pragmites.
Trust me, he'll be mowed.
Well,
But they take good care of their property.
it's just a promise though.
I
Yeah,
can only tell you about the 15 projects I've done with them.
okay.
They've all done well.
And again, if it says in here that they're going to maintain it and they're not, call the code enforcement officer, they're not following their proposed submission.
Well, that's why I was wondering, like, where in the submission, or does it say in the submission anywhere, mowing?
This says maintain.
Is it maintained? Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I don't know, is it says in here that they're gonna mow it once a month but maintained is. If it's growing up knee high, it's not being maintained,
Right.
you know?
Hope the CEO sees it that way.
right? My concern really is now mostly with shoreland that I just don't.
We went through that last week.
I know, but I didn't have like the riprap and some of the paving stuff, and that's what I really need to make sure that I can nail down, because a lot of these changes, right, I haven't seen till tonight, so. Um.
So I can tell you that all the work and everything that we show is basically above water line.
Which I believe you, but if I don't check, then I'm not doing my job.
Understood. You need to do your due diligence.
So I wonder if what are you looking for, Michael, do we have to put you on that time restraint tonight? Can we do this with a 2-week?
That's rip rap.
I mean, I hate to have you cram that in tonight and then find something or not find something that you're looking for, when we can put a date of 2 weeks out that you can, as long as it meets the standard.
Yeah. Why can't we pass this along, and if you
So
find
if
any-
you're okay in
We
2
have to
weeks,
come
that's
back.
what you need to leave here with, if.
You're looking to
everything
get
moves out with Mike.
notifications so you can start by March-ish.
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks in March. If we give 2 weeks, that's still the middle of February.
Right.
That,
So does that mean we come to another planning board meeting or we get? a-
well, no, I wouldn't think so. That's what I'm trying to get, is that if we
At
can
that
say
point in time-
contingent on him finding anything, he notifies you within 2 weeks if there's issues one way or the other.
And then we fix them.
And then, right.
If there are any.
If there are,
Issues, you probably have to come back.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly.
I don't know. You know, I don't, I would love to, if I could think of some way to make that work, that would be great, because a month is a long time. But the problem is that like you all need to basically vote to find whatever is in here and say like, yes, this is what we, you know, I really don't get to decide whether our standards met or not. I can look at it and be like, all right, this looks like it's met. My recommendation is you find it to have been met. And
Once again, we're back to the same factor that the developed property there is being reduced rather than increased,
sure.
including the riprap.
Yeah, the only real question that I have, well, it's not necessarily the only, it's the concern I have is with work and things happening in the shoreland is just where if it was just like the local ordinance and it was, okay, it's reducing a nonconformity, great, then cool, it is. But that's not always how shoreland works. They don't always just care that like, oh, your nonconformity is being reduced. Like better doesn't, at least with some things in here, shoreline doesn't necessarily always work that way. So that's my issue. And the flip side of that is, you can see there's a lot of public interest in this, that if we try to like finagle it and then somebody challenges this, it's like and then it's going to delay this all that much more. So in light of just getting that information tonight, can we table this until March 4th and have their decision, which still would give them time to make this all happen within their timeline? I know that there are some questions that came tonight that we certainly have to make sure that the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, whatnot. Yeah, and you're just getting this tonight. Some of it.
There's no reason,
Right.
What's the worst case scenario, Mike? That they might have to possibly remove parts of this? Is that the worst case scenario?
Well, I guess I don't know if that's the question, is that the worst case scenario is that the worst case is, I guess the way that I'm looking at it is, worst case scenario is the planning board approves something that it doesn't have the authority to approve, you know, like that the standard isn't met and you approve it, you know, and then when someone challenges.
What you're dealing with, you're dealing with a potential conflict between our local ordinances and state regulation. Correct?
Well, I mean, the shoreline ordinance is the towns, or there's certain things the town can't change, but
Yeah.
you know, it's based off of the state's model ordinance. But at the end of the day, it's like the planning board is tasked with saying, you know, is this standard met? Is this standard met? Is this standard met? I think my role is basically to go through and say, you know, yeah, I think, you know, check and try and do all of that legwork for you. Also, it's, you know, pretty straightforward when you get it. Yeah,
I'm gonna go home and check. That's an awful lot of riprap.
Yeah.
Does that really satisfy state requirement? I'm gonna check that out.
yeah, which is fair. That's something that I'm also like, you know, want to make sure that the riprap standards are
It's a
are
great
met.
addition down there, you know, that built that way, but if it had to go,
That's
not a deal breaker on redoing the parking lot.
right. Well, yeah, but the issue is either like the application meets it or it doesn't, right? It's not
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying.
I'm trying to think if there's a good way to do something faster, because if it's
Could we hold a quick special meeting in 2 weeks?
you could have you could have it wouldn't be in 2 weeks, but we could have a special meeting.
If you guys were to get the notification on March 4th, which would be our next meeting, that's still within your timeline?
Think. I'm not fully in control of that.
I mean, because I just don't feel.
Well, there's no reason they can't start lining up contractors and getting bids and stuff.
That's correct.
stuff like
I
that
just
to
don't
actually
feel
get this
comfortable
ready to go.
saying that this
Get 'em on
approves
board.
tonight
So
with
that
us
if it
just
does-
getting some
I
of this
got-
stuff tonight without it being reviewed.
Unless he finds something really unusual, I don't see this failing.
Is it gonna be a technical review or a whole nother public hearing? I just,
No.
'cause I'm out of town, so I can't be.
No,
No, we wouldn't need another public hearing.
It would be just depending
The
on
confirmation of what we do.
depending on his findings, I'm gonna look at this a little more myself.
Okay.
It's basically what you're gonna do is come in here and we're gonna go, okay, this has
Go.
been done.
Did we do what we said?
Mike got his findings of
That's-
fact. And this is what's gonna happen and this will fly.
Probably take you longer
I
to
will
walk
tell
your
you that
car in here than it will be for us
you
to
will
make that
probably
decision on the
know-
4th.
He'll probably know within a day or two.
Yeah, the sooner, Michael, you can get
Whether
that
that
information
works
to
or
Jeff.
not.
If there's any
If
commas that are
something-
missing, we'll
So-
turn it right around.
So
Yeah.
if there's a conflict,
We're good with that.
Right.
he can
Well,
say,
and that way,
look,
yeah,
I
then you
got
could-
this is a conflict.
No, and we want to meet the ordinance, and we
Update
want
it,
you guys to be
Yeah, well, we'll
comfortable,
do
so let's do it that way.
And that's, I think,
Yeah.
okay, so if
You
we can do that,
There's
that's
no
great.
reason You
'Cause-
can't do some legwork ahead of time.
No, I mean, if it was a whole nother public hearing, then I can't go spend my client's money to start. And part of it also is you start talking to contractors, they start booking it, and then you gotta give them the bad news, and it's never a good conversation, so.
Right.
in this-
I think you can move ahead
so-
But,
and then in a month.
No, we're gonna let Michael do his work.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back in March, but you'll be back in March, I'm not here, so you're good.
going back, somebody come back.
You accept the letter from the public?
What happened on the
If I
4th?
file a problem with
The
riprap,
election on the
state- Well, never mind.
Yeah, if you, you're welcome to submit any comments you want. And,
Or reach out to Jeff.
Yeah.
If you have a
Mike.
question.
And just brought up a good point. Didn't we move that one to the 12th because of the election?
Jeff, nice to meet you.
did we move it to the
Yeah, we did.
12th or? Yes. Oh, we'll do the 11th.
11th.
Like I said, I don't mind coming in here and have a 15-minute meeting.
So let me see, if we were to
If
do,
you don't have a public hearing, then you don't have to.
We don't have a
Well,
public, we don't have to have another
no,
public.
we could
hearing.
probably, oh wait, this is, wait, that. We could probably meet on the 26th.
26th.
If you want, if we,
Is that any big advantage to you
Two
guys?
weeks earlier than what we would
Better
normally do.
than 12.
Right.
The 12 starting to get in.
yeah, you get halfway into
You guys willing to come in for? a
special
short period of time?
meeting.
Yeah, we can, I'm okay.
Because
with that.
literally, if he doesn't find something wrong,
Mhm.
we're gonna just vote it in, and if he does find something
Well-
wrong, we're gonna deny it. It's
Well,
not gonna be very
yeah.
long.
Well, and if there's something, if there is an issue,
We're
they'll
gonna
have time
fix
to
it, then you can
change
vote
it
on
and
what
all.
we fix. We can talk about what we.
And then,
fixed.
right, and then
Yeah.
it's, you can.
I like that.
So,
Can we just say that we're tabling this until the 26th?
Yeah, just do that, 6
Just
o'clock,
add in a
26
motion,
or something like
yeah.
that.
Yep. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you wanna make a motion to do that and.
Somebody want somebody, are you good together?
Sure. We good?
Yeah, go ahead and make a
You
motion.
wanna, yeah,
You wanna make a
I'll make a
motion?
motion that we table the Bangor Savings Parking Lot at 100 Main Street until February 26th. Special meeting.
I may not be here, but that's okay. You guys can deal with it.
Jenny would probably be back anyway, Jenny, and then I'll stand in here just to vote. I guess I was gonna abstain on this anyway, but because I missed the last meeting.
We didn't do much in the last meeting.
But, yeah. And if you're here,
I can,
Tonight,
I
so-
mean, I did review thing then.
yeah,
It's,
yeah, no, there's plenty there to review. But yeah, no, you're here tonight. If
Yeah.
you review all of that,
I'm good with it.
you'll be able to be here. If you're available on the 26th
I-
and everybody else seems to be
Sure, I
available
will
on the
be.
I can
26th.
actually be gone. If I'm here, I can't remember. That's when I go on my usual 5-day fishing trip to Greenville.
I guess you're gonna stay home tonight.
That's,
So my motion stands of
Yeah.
Yeah,
special meeting on February 26th,
keep it.
6 PM.
I'll second.
Okay,
Cam
second.
second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, there you go.
okay, so
Thank you.
we'll do that to the 26th. I'm assuming then also, we're gonna schedule a special planning board meeting for the 26th?
Yep.
Okay. I will get that notice in the paper. I think we're good with that for that application.
You got one.
Okay.
We got,
Take up, right?
Mhm.
let me just,
Right,
I'll give you a little time. to Look it over.
yeah, which I appreciate very much.
No matter how to do it, that's all.
Special meeting.
Everybody's for bed.
Okay,
I didn't
so,
see you doze off.
Okay.
next thing, yeah,
On to new business. We have a subdivision pre-submittal meeting for Egypt Road.
Cathedral Pines,
Perone,
yes.
Cathedral Pines and Perone.
This is, I believe I included that in your packet. It is, I think, a fairly straightforward subdivision, but this is, yeah, like the pre-submittal meeting. And I believe this was the most recent survey and I guess the proposed 1, 2, 3, 4 lots, the proposed 50-foot right of way. And yeah, it's in the rural. 80,000. I assume this lot one, this A1 is 80,000 square feet.
Is that directly across from the
Right across from the,
photos?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought so.
right across the street.
Let's see. 1.9. Okay, yeah, cool. I just wanted to make sure you were hitting that 80,000 square foot minimum
This is the
which
piece in question
for lot
here. This is
1A,
right across from
which
Ronnie's.
you got.
Okay.
There's, yeah, the minimum lot size in the rural
Part of
district
that
is
Cathedral Pines.
80,000 square feet, and it
Back.
looks like it's 84,000,
This
so.
lot is right across from Ronnie's stores. There's a.
And then everything else has frontage.
There's nothing built out there right now.
Did they have that for a
Wood,
while or did
two.
Matt just
Oh,
sell
yeah,
that?
and then all of them have at least 200
Really
feet
not.
of frontage, which I
He
think,
might have just bought that off of the.
Man.
Yeah.
Matt-
yeah, minimum
Can't
street
remember
frontage is 200 feet, so.
He lives across the street.
I
now.
think as long as none of your buildings are over 35 feet tall, then I don't see any issues with it. Do you all have any?
I've been out there
questions?
before, walking it,
Mhm.
and I don't see anything.
No, it's-
No, the
Not
lot's
glaring,
decent
no.
size, I mean. Correct.
right.
I would say looks
The
good.
smallest one in there is,
That's what I was just looking, 1.94 acres, which is 84,000 square feet. So they meet that.
yeah. Most of the other ones are considerably larger than that.
Right.
Huh.
And then they all also have more than 200 feet of frontage.
Yep.
So. Um. yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other comments or I know you just, we're going through the motions because it requires the 2 meetings, but
No, I mean, and my sister did most of the legwork on this portion. You know, she had a surveyor measure everything out, draw everything up. So, no, this is
Yeah.
pretty straightforward and, you know, it's just between my sister and I and selling the corner that's kind of adjacent to the 2 lots that had previously sold.
Yeah.
So extremely straightforward.
Access all off Cathedral Pine?
No, our access is actually off of Egypt Road.
Yep,
So this is me.
yep.
And she will maintain a right of way up to what is exclusively hers. And then our access from Cathedral Pines to
Those 2.
those. And they're interior logging roads already everywhere. So it's really beautiful.
but having that 50-foot right of way that goes across that lot A3 gives you the street frontage that you need.
Oh,
So it's,
yep.
you know,
Yep.
that works. So I don't see any issues. I'll do the subdivision, whole review for it, and I can't imagine there's going to be any issues. You're just proposing lots on paper, so I mean lines on paper. So
I don't see any problem with it.
okay. Then I will make sure to put you on the agenda for.
The 11th.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could. Yeah, why don't we do it the 11th? We could probably do it at the 26th if you really want to, but
Let's just deal with that one
just,
and
that's
yep,
I
keep
think
our
that's
regular meeting. on
better
the
as long
11th.
as it's not. So we'll just do it at the regular meeting. Be cleaner.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it. Unless there's anything else by anybody. Nope. No. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, so
What do you want to do with that?
land use ordinance. You're good. Yeah. I printed out, so have you all gone through the proposed changes to the land use ordinance for, a lot of it's for LD 2003.
It take you a little while. That's what I'm saying. Look it up. Yeah, 1/4 inch thick.
And I-
By the time you get done with that, I'm gonna be home.
Well, that's the land use ordinance. So, I put a little bit of a summary on the front here. Some of this is just like required. LD 2003 is making
These
us do.
are the, this is summary of the change.
I could see that, yeah. Yeah.
Or were there anything that jumped out that seemed like it was going to be an issue that we want to make sure we go through? There was, I just want to. One was basically ADUs, I think is going to be the big one. And mostly it's just we have to remove a lot of the restrictions around them that currently exist. Just because of what the state has kind of put down. We could add, we could keep accessory apartments and also add the definition for ADU and do that. And I think it would just make things more complicated, and no one would basically no one would build an accessory apartment. They would only build ADUs because there would be less standards, and we kind of have to allow them to do that. I want to put some definitions for affordable housing because one of the things the LD 2003 does is say if anywhere that housing is allowed, if someone's building an affordable housing project that meets that definition, which is for rental anyway, it's like 80% income is 80% of area median income. Anyway, if you meet that, you can get 2.5 times the density. So if the density is 1 unit per 10,000 square feet, you could do 2.5 units per 10,000 square feet. So instead of 4 per acre, you could do, what is it, 10 per acre? Yeah.
Is
10
that
per
state
acre.
mandated?
Yes, it is. So now we don't need to get into this now. Newcastle, they don't do density, so there's no way to get a 2.5 bonus. But part of it is like they already don't require parking, they don't require they don't have yeah, because they're form based, like there's just we're making a couple tweaks, but essentially they're like you're allowed to have a building that is this tall, this wide, this many square feet, put as many units in there as you want, but you're probably not getting to, you know, if you want 2.5 times, you don't get a 2.5 times larger building. You just can put as many units as you want. So anyway,
But
so they regulate kind of building size rather than density. All right. So I think so just something to consider. There was a couple weird residential like definitions in here, at least that I thought were weird. This mixed residential development, which is basically saying that you're allowed to do mix of single family and multi-unit building on the same lot, which I don't think we necessarily need a definition for that. We can basically say we regulate density. You know, we can discuss if we want to put some form standards in there, but this kind of, you don't need this. You already have the planned unit development section in there. So I think it just kind of makes it more complicated. This net residential area or acreage, I think is maybe like a little bit of an old standard. And what I would wonder is, so my suggestion, my recommendation is to get rid of that. I assume that the intention is to protect wetlands, because basically what this does is it takes a bunch of, so it's total, you take the area of the parcel and you remove certain things like the area that's used for streets and sidewalks, steep slopes, areas that are in a floodplain, and all of that makes perfect sense. You don't want people developing on, you know, steep slopes or in floodplains, but by basically not, rather than saying you can't build in there and saying, and you don't get any of the development potential from it, what I think it encourages is people to fill in wetlands and basically try to like game the system. Where if you can just say, okay, you've got an acre and half of it's in the wetland and you're allowed to build 4 units an acre, you can still build 4 units. You just can't do it in the wetland or on that steep slope. You have to put the 4 here, but everything else now that's going to be open space. So basically just encourages actually people, I think, to conserve the wetlands and stay away from it really. So that's it also just makes the math hard. We can figure out what we want the density to be and just set it at that. So happy to have I'm rushing through this, but I'm happy to have a conversation about any of this stuff. I put a definition in here for short-term rental. The state basically says they're not going to define it, so we can. One other thing in here. Mixed use structures, one residential unit and non-residential space, currently not allowed in C1 district, which most of the buildings are mixed use. I think I've discussed this with maybe all of you at this point. So I personally think that it's a good practice to have your zoning be as close to whatever the existing is, unless you are explicitly like, we do not want this thing there. Because basically what this means is that these buildings that are mixed use can stay mixed use, but if someone wanted to build a new building or take a fully residential building and add commercial to it, not allowed to do that, or take a fully commercial building and put residential units in it, you know, which would add housing. You can't do that now. So I think that it makes sense. I think it would make sense to make mixed use allowable in the C1, the downtown district.
so too.
So I'm just going to make that my recommendation here is just make it a conditional use.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's yeah. I haven't heard anybody say this doesn't make sense. There's
It makes sense not to.
what? Yeah. So there's that. But for dwelling units, the big thing I took a lot out because it didn't make it. We basically couldn't do it with LD 7.3. I think that's actually it in here. The one other thing that I did, look at, give this to you. One other thing on page one is most of the current land use ordinance table. So kind of, I call it bulk standards, but not really officially what they are. So that's what they are right now. And one of the things that I think might make sense. We've had this conversation with George, code enforcement officer, and one of the things was right now we have a minimum land area for which, you know, it says 10,000 square feet per the first principal building or dwelling unit, and then 6,000 square feet after that. My recommendation would be to say the minimum lot area in the general residential, in the residential district, would be 10,000 square feet. Because then you can put one unit on it, and that's fine. So you can have a 10,000 square foot lot, that's fine. And then also to say that you know your density is going to be 4.5 dwelling units per acre, which is basically this one per 10,000 square feet. So, what it does is it separates it so that so instead of someone coming and saying, I want to create a unit, I want to create a lot and put a house on it. It's like, that's fine. What is the lot 10,000 square feet? Great. Then you're allowed one unit. If someone comes along and says, I want to create a lot and it's 10,000, or now I've got 15,000 square feet. They can do that, but they can't put the second unit on it. What it does is just separates it, and it's really more of a existing non-conformity issue. So when someone comes with a lot that's undersized, you basically can say like, no, you can't build the house on it. You're allowed to have that lot. Congratulations, you got a 9,000 square foot lot. Can't put a house on it. Right now, when they're kind of together. So I'm not suggesting making any new standards. I'm just saying maybe we can pull them apart for clarity so we can kind of enforce whatever they are and have a conversation about what people, you know, if you want larger lots, smaller lots, whatever, we can have that conversation. More density, less density, we can have that conversation, but they're separate issues. So I say that while I was going through this, actually today, I realized that the use table and this dimensional standards table has M, which I just assumed was medical. That's municipal apparently. And we don't have any standards then for the medical district, which I thought was odd because somebody wants to do something in there.
But not sure.
That's so
municipal.
Yeah, well, apparently, so when I went into this and I went to see like, okay, well, what districts are established under medical?
Me too. I don't even know what municipal would be.
No, there's the beginning. Here's the. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, what are these districts? So in here on land use districts purposes, okay, so it says general residential, commercial, which is C1 and C2,
Yeah.
rural, wireless communication, which we can have this conversation. It's an overlay. It's not really a district, but that doesn't matter. And then you've already said rural, and then there's municipal, and then there's no kind of establishment of the medical district, which I always just assumed that M was medical, not municipal. But the only property in town that's zoned as municipal is this.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
This
So,
is it.
and not that we don't need standards for a municipal district because the town owns it and, you know, isn't going to build, 40 stories.
So the fire station must be municipal.
It is, but it's not zoned that way, at least not on the map. So I'll check and see, but either way, medical doesn't seem to be listed and doesn't have standards, which kind of means there are no standards. So we should probably make standards.
Kind of took care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, so I don't think they've done anything really, but if they do come forward with an application, it's like, what's planning board's gonna mean? I don't know how we're gonna decide if they.
Well, they run out of room down there and they have their own pump station right there and on the coming over the driveway. I mean, it's always been hooked up. It's never come up.
Yeah, no, and I, hopefully there's not an issue, but if they did come and say, we want to put a 7-story building up, I don't know that, I mean,
Well,
they might have an issue.
No, there's more to this. We're missing something here.
Yes, because I thought when we was doing that parking lot,
No,
we did an
yeah,
ordinance
when
to
that-
change it
when the new
from,
building went in, I mean, there were height standards involved. There was a lot of different things involved with that. There was.
I imagine
myriad
it
of
would
stuff.
still have to go through site plan review. I mean,
This sewer system was always mentioned.
The sewer system.
Check with this and that. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
never scooted under the,
Yeah,
no.
well, sewer system isn't as dramatic as what they can build down there. How tall can it be? Like he says, what would happen if they wanted a 7-story building down there?
Right.
There's more to this than meets the eye somewhere, Mike.
yeah, okay. Because I was looking at today and like, so.
because we always hold them to the same standard of the 35-foot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I was looking at this and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Because now, I mean, I just, I don't want someone to come in and make the argument. You have municipal, but you don't have standards for medical, so.
It just never came up.
Yeah, no, which
You found it.
which
I
makes
mean,
sense. No, I
yeah.
just kind
Honestly,
of,
the medical with side and rear setbacks should still be 15 feet too.
Mhm.
Rather than.
yeah, I just,
Backing up somebody's private property and
Yeah.
going right to the property line is really not a very kosher thing to do.
yeah, right. If you're gonna do it in the
So-
downtown, one thing, but anywhere else.
If you got a huge hospital building, 15 feet, you 15, or you're good.
Well,
That's a neighbor.
True, but still,
That
it's
is
something.
close.
I mean, first of all, if you built right up the property line, you can't even get a ladder on it
I agree.
to maintain your building. So
Right.
that's just, yeah, so those zeros really ought to disappear. One thing. But whatever, I mean, I still think that we're missing something here with us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure anything's still gonna have to go through site plan review. Well,
Yeah.
anything would qualify to go through site plan review, but I just want to try and. I found that, I thought we should address this. And maybe we don't need to do all of this now. But I'm working on it, so it's like,
Okay.
if
Yeah, no, I hear
you want to work on it, I'm happy to. That was kind of a quick and dirty overview of this, just 'cause I know
Honestly,
it's late.
The medical system, medical buildings are all sewered.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the same thing with the C, like, there's no non-sewer standards in the C1 because everything down there is sewered.
the
So,
setbacks is one thing that I would certainly change, bring it back in with C1, residential and C2. I don't think that
Yeah.
20-foot setback in the medical district is all that bad, and I don't think a 15-foot setback is a bad thing either.
No,
Height restrictions of 40 feet are fine. I know that we restricted that building, that new building. I believe that building is about 40 feet.
Right.
Almost right on the nose.
correct. Yeah. So let's establish some standards there and then,
I think those
questions come up.
are good,
So,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason for the zero side and rear.
I just copied,
Setback.
whatever the municipal one.
I'm not sure what the reason for the zero is on the municipal is.
Oh, I see.
With the exception of possibly the divisional line in between this building and that building.
Oh,
Other than that, this
Yeah.
building has got land all the way around it. The only place it's compromised is in between those two buildings. That may
right.
answer that zero
Yeah,
factor.
right. That does make sense. Is like the walkway between this and I guess there used to be a gymnasium, something. But we can make the setbacks 10 feet or 15 feet and it's an existing nonconformity. It is what it is.
Mhm.
So I don't know, are there any issues? Are there any concerns? Do you want me to just to try and continue on
You
with
guys,
this,
with
or
the land use?
with the land? Yeah, with land use and the table, I think makes
Add
sense.
page numbers.
Yes. Yeah, I
I mean, I went through this, I've actually been through it a couple of times. I don't hold any grudges against most of it.
yeah, and I mean, if it
Nothing
wasn't
pops
so
out.
late, I would.
You probably went through this, didn't
I'd
you?
have, yep.
And you go through this?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think it just needs a lot of language cleaning up
Correct.
and you're the one to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, one of the bigger changes with the net, residential acre and acreage.
And I think
The
one of
rest
the
of it's all kind of,
yeah, I think yeah, it makes sense. Oh,
what you're trying to do is bring us into compliance with the state.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really have any choice as to what we
yeah, some I mean some
can
of
do
it's
with it. in a
how we go
great
about
way.
it, but yeah, I mean, right, the ADU thing, I mean, don't really have a choice to that. What I did do is say that basically lots, I think in here, right, the way it is right now is that you can have 2 ADUs on your property. We can reduce that. We can restrict, you can say in certain districts it can be 2, in certain districts it's 1, you know, we can do that. Everywhere is going to have at least 1. But I did that especially because the way the state like writes this is if you're in a growth area, which is probably going to change because we're updating the comprehensive plan right now. But if you're in a growth area and you're on sewer, I think there may be one other thing, like everybody gets at least 1 extra unit. So like there's no more, you're limited to 1 unit. You can regulate density, but let's just say you've got a property that's 5 acres. You're allowed to put an ADU. So everybody basically gets 2. And then if you're in a growth area, you get 1 more. So now you're allowed 3. And if you're on sewer, you can get 1 more. So now you get 4. So there's like, they call it.
Still not a lot of 5 acres.
No. Now,
If you had a half acre lot.
if you had a half acre lot, you can still have the ADU. The ADU is exempt from the density. So if you had a half acre and you're
In a growth area.
Well, yeah, I guess the easier thing is if it's sewered, if you have a density maximum, well, so you can't really get around the state's, if you're on septic, there's minimum density standards. Even the ADU, you're not getting around that. If you're on septic, you basically need half an acre, 20,000 square feet, so a little bit less than half an acre per single family house. Once you get to multiple units, you can start doing it by bedroom count, so you get like some efficiency savings there. But you can essentially have a 12-room single family house, and you need the same amount of land as a 1-bedroom single family house, which is a little less than half an acre. Okay, so if you're on septic, you can't get that ADU if you only have 23,000 square feet. But if you have an acre, all right, you have basically enough space for 2 single unit septic systems. That you could get your ADU, you know, the town couldn't tell you can't put an ADU in there. If you're on sewer now, then all bets are off. You can set your density to be, 1 unit per 80,000 square feet. So like the rural, you wouldn't be getting many more. Everybody would still be able to get their ADU, but you couldn't get more than that. Even if you were in a growth area and on sewer, if you're in the rural district, if somehow you ended up in a growth area in the rural district, you still have to meet that 80,000 square foot for the 3rd unit, not for the ADU. Anyway, so yeah, they made it not straightforward, which is why I'm like, I'm trying to find some like more straightforward ways to go about it by just saying you're allowed 2 ADUs, or 1 ADU. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm happy how we go about it. Happy to have that conversation. I know it's late, so I'm not trying to I'll stop my.
When do you have to have that finished?
Is it effect by July?
It needs to be in effect by July, which means like in a month, basically, in order to do the public hearing and have it go to the select board and the whole process, get it in for the town report on the ballot and all of that. So
Other
Yeah.
than the subdivision on our March, do you know of anything else that's gonna hit that agenda?
Possibly the storage, self-storage on Biskie Road. Maybe they were not in a big rush. So, I assume you want to reschedule the site visit for that.
Yeah, probably should.
They're not, yeah, like I said, they're not in a big rush.
Right, if they haven't got back to us to come back from the March, then I don't think it's
Right.
critical that we have that right off.
That's what the conversation I had with the applicant was. We canceled the site visit. I'm gonna see what the planning board wants to do about it. And it doesn't sound like they're in a big rush. And they basically said, yeah, so. But I'll try to get that rescheduled.
Because we
and,
should, certainly should talk about this land use at one of our meetings, that we have something less on that, so we can give it the attention it needs.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's gonna have to we're gonna have to have a public hearing if the select board says, yeah, go forward with this, but I figure that should be a relatively finished draft that the public can react to and say, we do like or don't. This, hopefully we have a conversation about, it should, the sausage making part of it, so. Well, it feels that way sometimes, so.
Yeah.
Kind
of grinding you right up.
Oh. Yeah. The only other thing was shoreland zoning. It came up with the former attorney's office at 40 Main Street that the underlying density, which we were just talking about, would have allowed a certain amount of units in the C1. Actually, there is no maximum density. They have, as long as they have 10,000 square feet in the C1, they can put as many units in there basically as they want, because they're sewered. But shoreline zoning said, no, can't do that. Because it is sewered, and I checked with the state, we can more or less defer to the underlying zoning. They would not just, I don't think they would accept just a open, like, yeah, let them put as many units in there as they want. But we don't have to keep it to 1 unit per 10,000 square feet, which the shoreline zoning has right now. So the question to you all is,
Pretty big conflict.
yeah, it's right. I mean, especially since so much of C1 is in shoreland. So I don't know what the appropriate number would be. I can come up with a recommendation. It might be interesting to see what the other buildings there are, what their density actually is. But is that something that you would like to explore and try to update?
I would think in the C1 district, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think we have to, if we
Because-
say that our ordinance can say you can do the one, but then shoreline zone says no.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
So-
here's a perfect example. Let's say what somebody took that piece of land next to the parking lot. No, there's enough room in there, square footage, they could build a building in there. They could put an apartment, there were apartments there originally. That's solely within shoreland zone. So they could have, because of the size of the lot, you could put a pretty good sized building in there, because of the C1 setbacks. They, how about low income housing? You literally could have 1.5 apartments in there. Rather than 8. How about the field adjacent to that? That's a pretty good sized piece of land too.
Yeah.
That's all of shoreland zoning. You might be able to get 2 apartments in there. What good is that? Not good.
You'd have to get to it through a disputed right of way.
There would be that issue, yes.
Well, actually, I believe that field belongs to the Griffin family anyway.
I know.
So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that should be
look into that.
addressed. I
Okay.
agree.
then I will do that. And then that's all I've got.
Honestly, the old Christian Science church there on Water Street. She
Oh.
put 3 apartments in there? She's solely in
The
shoreline
rest-
zone and
was-
small
was
lot.
the-
She probably
the
not
rest-
in
Was the
compliance.
restaurant,
Huh?
is that? was
Oh,
the
Grace,
rest-
what's her
and-
name?
and
Yeah.
now it's apartments?
I think there's 3 apartments in there right now. So that's actually not in compliance. Not that I said anything about this.
Did that come in front of you, us?
No, I don't think so.
Let's change the use.
Oh, it would be. Well, that's actually, there were apartments in there before.
I would say, I thought there was in there before.
Oh, then I didn't,
The restaurant down and then put
yeah,
2 more.
I'm with you.
Okay, one in the basement, one in the dining hall, and then there was one in the second floor.
This town could have
There was one
50
on the
more.
Second floor originally
If this town had 50 more, they'd all be
She
full.
added 2 more,
Units, yeah.
There's
yeah,
no
yeah,
house.
yeah.
which is not a big deal. I mean, the building's sewered, a good sized lot. But you know, technically what he's saying with the shoreline zoning, even though it fits with our C1 densities, it does not fit with with state shoreline zoning. Because of that.
Right.
No,
But,
yeah.
Need-
So whatever. Anybody want to make a motion to go home?
Go ahead, Wilden.
I make a motion we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Good.
All right, thank you all.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was a little bit of a messy one.
Now.